ESBR boxing. We're about myself and Paul Kelly. That means only one thing. We're in preview mode, world title preview mode. We're in the featherweight division. Before we get to that, let me just say like and subscribe to the channel, please. While Paul takes a drink, you can like and subscribe to the channel. You can have all your boxing needs under one roof. Let us know, obviously, in the comments what you think to this video, as well as any others. Like and engagement, interact, give us feedback, and that will help tailor and refine what we give to you on the channel. So please do that. But without, as I said, further ado, Paul, thank you very much for joining me. Let's get involved in this one. WBO World Featherweight action. We are here. This is a rematch. Obviously, we're here with Rafael Espinoza versus Robeisy Ramirez. First fight took place last year. As we see, edged closely in a majority decision victory by Rafael Espinoza. We don't want to go too much obviously into both names. Both names obviously popular. Both names obviously championship levels. People have heard about them. But let's just talk a little bit, I suppose, about the division. Featherweight division, that is. And the question I'm going to ask you, really, you've got obviously Rafael Espinoza, Angelo Leo Figueroa. Your man Figueroa is down there. Obviously, Nick Ball, your mother man, and your man Nick Ball down there as well. Do you think Espinoza, Paul, first I'm going to hit you with, is Espinoza the best featherweight in the world currently, yes or no?
Thanks for having me on as always, mate. Yeah, I'm looking forward to this video, and that's a tough one to begin with. I mean, I think before the first Robeisy Ramirez fight, I think a lot of people had Ramirez as the best featherweight in the world. Espinoza was a relatively, I think he was an underdog definitely to beat Ramirez. He did got off the deck to do so. Obviously, he got dropped in the fifth before then coming back and dropping Ramirez in the 12th, and ultimately probably swinging that in his favor that fight and to become world champion. But yeah, I think he's definitely, is he the best? I don't know, because do you know what the freakiest thing is, mate? He makes 126 pounds and he's 6'1". I mean, like that's ridiculous. Nick Ball, did he reach his chin? And they're in the same weight division. It's one of those where I said Nick Ball is probably one of the best in the world. Me and you have discussed at length before he got beat by Angelo Leo, which was a big knockout. We thought Luis Alberto Lopez was the best. As you mentioned, my man Brandon Figueroa maybe needs that big name on his record. I know he's rematching Stephen Fulton at the beginning of 2025, so we're looking forward to that fight. All those names are up there. But like I said, as well, kind of with the super featherweight division, mate, I think that there's not one name who you can comfortably say, right, he beats everybody else. You know, I think it's one of them where we could see a lot of people beating each other. You know, say Espinoza's to beat Ramirez again. You know, what's to say that Brandon Figueroa and the Stephen Fulton winner doesn't beat Espinoza? What's to say that Nick Ball doesn't beat Ray Vargas if they were to fight again? What's to say that, you know, he doesn't beat Angelo Leo? What's to say Angelo Leo doesn't beat Espinoza then? You know, kind of like that. I really cannot say with any confidence who the best featherweight in the world is right now. So that's kind of my long-winded answer, to be perfectly honest with you, mate. There are so many. I think that top five is very strong, but I cannot pinpoint one.
Yeah, you know what I think. You said it was long-winded, but Paul, I think it was very erudite. Thank you for sharing. Because I actually agree with you. I totally agree. I don't think there's any one name that, if it was a sort of WWE ladder match, leaps forward and grabs the sort of belt from the ladder with any sort of confidence. I think, like you say, as these guys kind of mix with each other and fight with each other, we'll be able to establish, I suppose, a number one. And this fight, in some ways, will kind of help establish that. If Espinoza gets Ramirez out of there comfortably, for example, we look at that again and go, 2 victories over in there. That's maybe we can do it in a statement victory. We can sort of shape that way, but. To be honest with you, I'm with you. I'm not convinced he is, but I'm not convinced he isn't either. To be perfectly honest with you, so let's elaborate a little bit on that. Let's hit me with a few names while you're on the call here. Let's go with, first and foremost, with your man Nick Ball, Paul. Nick Ball's obviously a long-time fan of Nick Ball. Rafael Espinoza, obviously I said very tall at the weight. Nick Ball not so tall at the weight, but how do you see that fight playing out for word to happen? And on top of that, I'm also going to hit with some other names. If you want to take maybe two, three at a time, Angelo Leo and Brando Figueroa as well. How do you see those 3 fights playing?
Nick Ball one's interesting. So Nick Ball's obviously fought a very tall fighter in Ray Vargas and didn't get the decision on the night. It was a draw with Vargas keeping his belt, but a lot of people thought Nick Ball won that. So you can kind of say, is the blueprint there? Does he know how to beat a taller fighter? He's always fighting people bigger than him. Let's be honest, Nick Ball, he's used to it by now. And it's sometimes easier for a small person to fight a big person because they've been doing it their whole life. Whereas has Espinoza been fighting people almost a foot smaller than him? Probably not so much. Nick Ball, he wins that one. Espinoza, Angelo Leo. I'm going Espinoza. Brandon Figueroa, you mentioned was the other one, didn't you? I love
Figueroa,
Brandon Figueroa. Brandon Figueroa beats Espinoza for me. I also think he beats Stephen Fulton in their rematch again. So Yeah, I think Brandon Figueroa, he
I'll
could
have a
maybe
couple
be
more, Paul.
the
We'll have
guy.
a couple more while we're here. Stephen Fulton, obviously, a guy anyway as well. Ray Vargas, and last but not least, a man that we have spoken about many, many times on this show, and that is Luis Alberto Lopez. Paul Fulton, Vargas, and Lopez. How do you see those playing out against Espinoza?
Short and sweet, I think Espinoza beats them all three of those names right now. I think Figueroa is going to beat Fulton. I think Espinoza would beat Fulton as well. Luis Alberto Lopez, we've been high on him for a long time. Brilliant fighter, but that knockout to Angelo Leo was dramatic to say the least.
Yeah,
It's all about how he reacts to that. Will he be the same fighter? Maybe not. I think it was always a bit of a disaster waiting to happen with Lopez because he was so he was so heavy handed himself, but he took so many risks. It was a matter of time until he got clipped and caught, and he did. So I don't know. It depends how he bounces back from that. And then Ray Vargas, made. I mean, yeah, I think he kind of stunk the place out against Nick Ball last time, and I'd say Rafael Espinoza probably stopping Ray Vargas, to be quite honest with you. So yeah, that's me. What I've just said is I probably have Espinoza as top three.
yeah,
He has to get past Robeisy Ramirez, mate, because he's another name, as I mentioned at the beginning,
yeah.
who might have been at the top of the division before that fight that he lost narrowly, should we say, as well, against Espinoza. So yeah, mate, that's how I see him going against those certain types of names, but has to be Ramirez first.
Yeah, you know what? I think out of those names we mentioned there, I think the Nick Ball fight is one I'd love to see. I think Nick Ball's obviously game as anything on the ascendancy. I think that'd be a close fight. I wouldn't. I actually think that Nick Ball could win that fight. Nick Ball could lose that fight. But to be honest with you, I think that's a close one. I think Stephen Fulton. I think that's a good fight as well. That could kind of go either way. I'd back you as well with Brandon Figueroa. I think would probably beat Espinoza. The other names, again, I think Espinoza would prevail. So I think he beat Angelo Leo. I think he beat Vargas as well and Luis Alberto Lopez. But Paul, like I said, we're not talking about that fight. We're talking about the fight Rafael Espinoza versus Robeisy Ramirez, number two. And again, you look, there's been chivalry in the group. There's been, people have gone first ahead of each other. But we're not going to do that again today, Paul. I'm not going to go first, unfortunately. I'm going to go straight back to you, Paul, and say predictions for the fight, Paul. Who wins and how? Remember, this is for world title action, rematch, WBO world featherweight title. Who wins and how, Paul?
I'm finding it really difficult to pick a winner here, mate. I think this is honestly, it is a flip of a coin for me. I can make a case for both men. I'm going just ever so slightly. Like, I mean 51-49, 52-48. I am just going with repeat. I think Rafael Espinoza could win this one again. It was a dramatic fight the first time, both of them on the deck. But I just think, you know, after seeing that, I think there's something about Rafael Espinoza that is could beat Robeisy Ramirez again. But I do think even if he loses, Robeisy Ramirez is still one of the best featherweights in the world and could probably win another world title against the right opponent. But yeah, I'm going Espinoza repeat, mate. Probably points again. What about you?
You know what, Paul? We are becoming unanimous on the prediction show now, the preview show now, because I actually have the same. I have Espinoza points. I think again, I think, like El Divino, what is he, 21 and 21 KOs and 25. I don't think he'll stop Ramirez, to be perfectly honest with you. I don't think that. I think Ramirez will see the bell again, but I think it'll be wider than it was the first time round. Obviously, it's an MD, so, in some ways, if he wins, it's going to be wider than that. But I think I see a UD, to be honest. I see a UD Espinoza in a fairly controlled fight, to be perfectly honest with you. But guys, that is all we've got time for. Let us know in the comments if you agree or disagree with myself and Paul, not only on the outcome and predictions of this fight, but also, whether you think Espinoza is the best featherweight in the world, and also how he gets on like that raft of names that we mentioned there. Obviously, Ball, Leo, Figueroa, Fulton, etc. Like and subscribe to the channel as already advised. And Paul, once again, thank you very much for joining me. And as always, guys, thank you very much for watching.